Hey, so I've been thinking about focusing on end goals lately, right? I think the more I work on this career and this industry, I try or I tend to start thinking more about this rather than the issues or the problems that we might find along the way, right? So instead of focusing on the actual, problems that we find and we get trouble with, that might be minor, we really need to understand what are the implications of those problems or those issues in the long term for the end user and how the user is going to experience our app because of those, right? So I was thinking more specifically about Compose and Compose performance in this case. And something that many people have been asking me about is how to track or monitor performance regressions in Compose, right? And there are many tools to monitor this, but most of the tools are basically focusing on not the actual specific end goal, which is performance, but things like, I don't know, things like monitoring recompositions or unnecessary recompositions and so on. So while those tools are great and are great as tools that we can use to gather information, I think we shouldn't take that data as the actual culprit for our issues, right? Or at least not assume that every single unnecessary recomposition is an issue for our app, because ultimately it's very possible that the users are not really experiencing any issues because of these compositions, right? And actually, when you think about Compose and the way Compose is designed, I think it's actually designed in a way that you shouldn't really think or need to think about these things. Just write your UI, assume that your UI is going to be efficient, that is going to be working all right. And that's like the best possible scenario, right? Obviously, that is a little bit naive sometimes because we know that things happen, right? But what I'm trying to say here, I guess, is that don't assume that every single unnecessary recomposition is an issue. For example, in this case, right? What you really need to be monitoring is performance, the actual performance, and then have your tools set in a way that let you know if the user is experiencing a performance downgrade with some release that you have made or whatever, right? And then from there, you can assume that you have an issue and then you investigate things like unnecessary recomposition, right? So don't do premature optimization. Try to focus on monitoring the actual end goal. I think that's the most important thing. And don't take everything else as issues because those might very well be false positives in many cases, right? An example of this, you might have a few extra